Hi there, Sarah Perez. You might be the only one in here. I am not naked, I promise. Hey, you guys. I'm just plugging in and charging all of my devices and making sure that we get everything set up. So we're here a little bit early just to let people pile in. Hey, guys. So, hi. I'm so happy people are showing up. I don't know why I keep trying to move my camera. I think this is fine. This is good, right? Just finished your last final. Awesome. Congrats, Macy. You guys, while we wait for people to pile in, I look a little rough. I didn't put on makeup or do much with my hair. Thank you. HelloLeash.com is up. And I basically just decided today at 3:30 that I wanted to, hey Griff! I decided at 3:30 that I wanted to get my website up and running. And so in 3 hours, I built my whole website. So today's topic, we're waiting for people to pile in, but we're going to be here only for an hour today because this is just last minute impromptu. I had some extra time, but I figure for the first few minutes I can tell you guys kind of a little bit of a story time, but also kind of explains what how I'm here on YouTube about a dating business that sorry, I was distracted by Caroline's comment. A dating business that I left behind, and then from there kind of open up the floor for a Q&A. And then I said Q&A in the title and then didn't realize that I said dating Q&A, and I was like, oh, they might think that means dating Q&A about my life, about my dating life. And I don't know, that could be a whole other thing. But I meant more asking for, an Ask Alicia type of thing. So, and it'll make sense, once I tell you guys about the business. Yeah, a bit of a story time, a little bit of tea, if you guys will. You know that I can get a little bit shady at times when I feel justified. Not only that, but Oliver is being a brat, so I'm sorry if he comes over here. He's been asking for dinner 2 hours early, even though he has breakfast left over in his bowl. I'm not super shady, but I will call out people for bad behavior, and you know that. I have my water. My hair's fine, stop touching him. I never feel good about my hair these days. I think it's part of getting older. Your hairline just changes and it's just oh. I used to think I had really thick hair. But I think, doesn't every girl just in the beginning of a life, isn't that just part of the process? Okay. So it's after 7 at this point, or 7:30 at this point. So I'll go ahead and tell you guys kind of what led me to, yeah, it's kind of a nervous tick, Sarah. It's interesting. The reason I want to tell this story is because it is kind of what led me here to YouTube. I've told you guys several times that I'm here because, or I started my channel because there were certain things, yay, Libby, I thought you'd be proud of me for that. There are things that I want to talk about that I don't think people around me really care. It's a dress, thank you. Really care to talk about, mainly YouTubers. That was the big one, and then of course I like to deep dive into human behavior and mental health stuff. I'm sorry if I don't recognize all your comments. I'm trying not to distract myself and stay on course with my little story here. But I appreciate you guys saying hello. Hey, Rain. So that really is it. I really wanted a place where I could go, hey, Atticus, and just really just talk about my opinions, whether that be opinions on a YouTuber I've been watching, or a trend I've been seeing happening, or something mental health related, anything going on that I want to talk about, you know, I don't have to worry about bothering anyone in my life. I'll just put it on camera, and if anybody cares to watch it, then great, awesome. If not, oh well, at least I expressed myself. And here we are, 23K later, without having any intention of building an audience, which I'm so grateful for. I've just kind of gone along with the ride, and it's been amazing. So, I would not have, I know, and he's like all over the place because I'm chatty, so he's like energetic now. I think he's an extra, ooh, I accidentally hit him, I promise, I swear. I didn't mean to. And if it weren't for me leaving this business behind, I would not have ended up on YouTube. Second, last time I had a public live, I think I told you my boyfriend told me to run downstairs because there was a package in the mail and to open it, and it was a really cute puzzle. Same damn thing happened today. And then I went down and it was another puzzle. Which is amazing because if you guys have been looking for puzzles during quarantine, it's been nearly impossible. So every time we find a puzzle, which is something we already were doing with each other, every weekend we would work on a puzzle together, and then quarantine happened and we were like, hey, all the puzzles are gone now. So essentially I have to go back to around November, December of 2018. And at that time I was a recruiter, which is, oh, I'm glad you guys aren't mad at me for accidentally smacking Atticus. He's cool. So around the like winter-ish 2018, I was working as a recruiter, which is my job, essentially part of my job now, but it was with a different company, and I wasn't entirely happy, but I kind of kept going back to this thing that I really wanted to do. I've been living in DC for, I think I've said in this area like 12 years, and in DC proper for 9 years, and obviously, I think I've told you guys, I'm not married, so I have dated on and off in DC, whether that be a handful of long-term relationships, you know, short-term relationships, or casual dating, being on the dating apps, meeting people in person, meeting people on the apps, mostly meeting people on the apps, but a couple people in person. And just kind of learned the ins and outs of really like dating life in DC. And I'm sure it's different in every city. But then I'm sure there's some things that kind of are generally like universal practices and universal trends and things like ghosting and stuff like that. So I talk about one of my best friends who lives here in DC, and she was almost, when I met her, almost a little project for me, and I hate to say it like that, but, you know, since I met her, she's always kind of looked to me as somebody who dates well, and has asked my advice a lot on, like, how do I respond to this message? Or when guys reach out to me, it seems like they only want to talk about this sort of thing. How do I get them to be interested in a different side of me? You know, what's going on? I'm going on these first dates, and then I don't hear from them again. And so we kind of like deep dive into her dating life to try and fix things. And things, as far as I know, I talked to her for a long time yesterday, and things are going great in her dating life. Just in terms of how much control she feels she has, and how fulfilling her experiences are for her. Whereas when I met her, they just weren't. So that was really cool to hear. And, you know, anytime any of my friends, especially in the DC area, has questions about dating, I love to give my advice, just as somebody who's dated a lot. You know, the more and more I was unhappy in this job, I was thinking, like, I really want to create. Around that time was when, like, BetterHelp was being advertised a lot. And I was thinking about how cool it would be if I could just, how did it come? It had to have been from me, I think from me texting this friend and giving her advice. And then her saying something like, you should do this as a business. I know what it was. Guy ghosted her. And we worked together to craft the text message to get her the closure she needed. So it had to be concise, and but it also had to cover everything she needed to say, and hopefully elicit a response that was going to give her an answer, but also still say what she needed to say in case he didn't respond. He did end up responding. She did get an answer she needed, not the one she wanted, but the one she needed. And that was when she said, when she said, you should do this as a job. And so I thought, God, that would be so much fun. I would love that as a job, to just be able to give people my advice. And so that's why when I started my channel, I talked a lot more about giving advice, and that is something I'm going to want to do more of. So my idea was to, we're not going to get into BetterHelp though. Like this is not a therapist. This is not a therapist like service or anything like that. But the format where you have somebody on the other end and it's just a chat service, right? So if you think about that, you could have that sort of service with any sort of consultant or advisor. In this case, it would be like a dating advisor. A dating consultant type of deal, almost like Hitch. If you don't want to listen, it's also fine too. You don't have to be here. But because I always forget, anybody who hasn't, if you'll take the time just to give this a thumbs up, that would be really super cool. No worries, Heather. It's mostly me telling a story. So thank you guys for hitting the like button. Yeah, so I thought about like this is feasible. Like this is something that you could create and really just kind of set up a way to where you have but by the way, my nails, sound really ADD, but my nails look yellow. It's because I just took my yellow polish off and they're like stained. Not because I've been like smoking cigarettes on every finger. So I started to think to create a business where I have a book of clients that are in the dating world that would like help on figuring out like, I've been a personal stylist before, so like what to wear on a first date. I've been on the apps, like how can I better my dating profile? What should I say in response to this, or what does this text mean? A lot of it too was how to properly communicate over text. That was something I wanted to help people with, was how do you communicate with text message, because so much is misunderstood, right? And lost in translation. So I believe in finding ways to very effectively communicate over text. So I wanted to make this into a business. And at that time, there was a girl at work that I was getting along really well with, that I worked really well with. There were some times where she'd been like a little shady with people, and when I say shady, I mean like kind of like mean, like underhanded. But she and I were working great together, like with our clients and stuff like that. We were just like winning deals back and forth, if that's what you want to call our work. We were just getting along so well. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to tell you a secret. This is this thing that I want to do. I want to create a business where I kind of am like a text advisor to people who want help learning how to date in DC, especially because it's a transient city. People come and go. They come here and they want to know, like, hey, how do I navigate this? I'm new to this area. So she was like, oh my God, I've always wanted to do something like that too. So, and now I'm starting to wonder if maybe a lot of people have kind of been told that or wanted to do that too. So she's this coworker / friend was very much a like business-minded woman. She was very good at building businesses and just being like very like energetic and go and hardworking and building businesses. So. And then I had the kind of the digital marketing experience, just kind of from grassroots, just doing things on my own. I've mentioned to you guys before, I've done a lot of little entrepreneurial projects here and there. I just launched my website, helloleash.com. I think it looks legit. I think it looks great. I did it in 3 hours. So, I mean, and with little experience, I have no formal experience in, graphic design or even marketing at all. I have a marketing job, but it's all self-taught. But I have that, and I have that, and I have a really solid understanding of the digital space. So she has the business mind, right? And I've got the understanding of the digital space. And so it was kind of like with our powers combined, we can create this business. It'll be awesome. So we thank you for checking out my website. So we decided to go into this together. So as we were kind of starting to talk about it, and I working through things, I created a logo. We created an Instagram account, and that was going to be at least our landing page for a little bit. We teased it, and then at one point she was thinking that she wanted to bring her friend in. She approached me and she was like, hey, I have an idea. I have a friend that I would like to bring on as part of the team, but only if you're okay with it, only if you're comfortable with it. But she's got like really a PR background. So she's very much like a socialite and can probably bring in a lot of buzz and a lot of business for us. And I thought, well, interesting, because I've got my friend up the street, the one who told me to do this business, and she's really smart, and she's got a marketing background, she's got like a research background, she's very like organized, and I feel like perhaps if things go well, there could be some good balance here if we create a team. So we put together this team. At first we were, everything was going great. We were really excited. They were a little bit older than us. Christina is like in her late 20s, and of course I was in my early 30s, and they were like in their later 30s. But we thought this is good. It's a good balance. You've got somebody who's younger, you've got people who are a little bit older, somebody who's a little bit older and like actively dating, somebody who's a little bit older in a long-term relationship, and then me who's been in a relationship, and then my friend who is kind of actively dating, and then and my friend who's also dated in the LGBT community as well. So there was a lot of like a good balance of experience. And I was really taking on a lot by saying that I would take on like all the digital marketing of everything, like being a co-founder and all digital marketing, all content creation, all copy, everything like that was going to be me. So not even just online stuff, like print collateral and stuff like that. So it was a lot, and I also was the one who was in charge of creating kind of our manual and our policies and stuff like that. It was a lot of work, but I did it, and I was happy, and I was excited to do it. And we would have like weekly meetings, and it became pretty apparent pretty fast that half of the team did not really respect my expertise in what I said is my expertise, and forgive me for seeming, I don't know, but if I co-found a business and I say this is going to be my area, this is my silo, the whole business is my silo, but this is my silo, I need you guys to trust me that that's going to be my expertise, and I need you guys to divert to me when in doubt, and same goes for everybody else in their silo. So I'm going to try to get this done in under 30 minutes, the story, so that we can open it up. So yeah, basically we would have these meetings, and it seemed that these meetings would be an hour's worth. Instead of like talking about what we're doing that week to move the business forward, it would be somebody on that half, we'll just call it that half of the team questioning my decision to do, I should try this for social media. I should try this as a social media post. Why did I do this? Why am I doing that? I just want to know why you're doing this. Well, maybe you should try this. Maybe you should try that. And it was just more, not that I was always like open to ideas, but then it got to the point where I could not even do my work, and we were not moving forward at all as a company. And so, there were times where me and my co-founder had to get together at times and say, hey, like I'd be like, hey, your friend that is kind of your direct report, you've got to get her in check because she's stepping too much in my lane, and this is impeding my ability to move forward. And then that co-founder would be like, hey, well, your direct report, I think, is being however, and I need you to talk to her about this. So it was a lot of that. And it got to the point essentially where there was just so much friction, and long story short, I did not feel like my opinions, my expertise, my knowledge, or any of that was respected. I felt like I was being leaned on to do almost all of the footwork. My co-founder, she was kind of the one who had a lot of money to just like throw down into the business initially, even though I told we were going to pay that money back with the business. So essentially she's not putting down her money, she's fronting the money, but it's our money if we're going to be paying it back. So she's just like throwing money around for things that, may or may not have been important, things that were not approved by me. I built the website. All of this stuff. Built the website, built the social media, everything, and I was just not happy. Not only was I not happy, we weren't getting towards our goals. I wasn't being trusted with my area of expertise, and thus we just weren't moving anywhere. And then, we just started to argue more and more and more, and it became more of kind of, I think for them or for my co-founder, it became an issue of, well, I'm older than you guys, so you need to respect your elders. And that is an issue I had when she said that I need to tell that to my direct report, essentially. I was like, that's not appropriate in any workplace to tell somebody that they need to respect you because of your age. That's just not okay, and I'm not going to promote that in any business. So, we kept going back and forth, and it was just too stressful. And at that time in my life, I started to realize that I had just mounting anxiety anytime I was going to reach out to one of my teammates who wasn't my friend. And so there was one day where I said, this is not making me happy. Not only is it not making me happy, I am realizing that if this does become successful, I'm going to be working with this person for as long as we're working for this business, and I don't want to work alongside this person. So there was a day I just made this decision, and I went on my work email, and I sent her a final email. I said, here are the passwords to everything, to Squarespace, to our social media accounts. Here is all the material that I've already worked on. You are welcome to have everything that I've worked on, all the copy I've worked on. You have it. It's all yours. I'm not going to be petty. I'm not going to take anything with me. Go ahead and have it. I'm going to back away. Whatever work I put into this is yours. I didn't get anything in response, which is good. I didn't want to hear back from her. And at that time, my friend was just like, she felt the same way I did. And so she walked away too. So currently that business is being run by those two women. And there is a side of me that I don't want to say that's petty, but there is a side of me that likes to feel vindicated when I feel disrespected. So, every now and then, okay, so a couple of things. First, me being the kind and tactful and polite person that I am, to say, here are the passwords to everything, and here you're welcome to have everything that I've worked on. My friend was like, hey, if you're really pissed off, you own the rights to all of the stuff you created. You can take it with you. You can clear the social media. You can clear all the copy on the website. You can take all the photos down that you took and put up there. And I was like, no, I'm gonna take the high road. I'm gonna be the nice girl and do that. I'm sorry, they went and blocked me from social media, which I don't think any brand should do, for just no reason, just because they don't like someone or because somebody left their business. I don't think that's a good practice. They blocked me on social media. It's not like I was reaching out to them at all. And one thing, I think that this is just them not being very smart about this sort of stuff. I had a blog post on the website. I wrote a blog post, and at the end it had my little picture, my name, and my title. And when somebody authors a work, then you don't remove the citation is what it is. Like their, the name, at least their name. And I've gone to the website and saw that they kept the blog post and removed my information. So that's essentially like claiming my work. Yeah, it's really like, and looking at their social media, it's like, it's so gross and unprofessional at this point. I would even tell you guys, but I don't want to send any traffic their way. So every now and then I check. It doesn't seem like things are going great. In fact, their website, it appears as though they hired somebody to rework the website, and it looks worse than when I did it. And then at the very end of the website, at the end of the homepage, I think they decided, my co-founder let some attorney tell her that you have to create an app in order to have any sort of business like this. And I tried to tell her, we really don't. This is a consultancy business. We don't need an app. We don't need an app. There are a lot of attorneys out there that want you to develop an app because there's a lot of money in app development. We're not going to do that. Even if that is a good route to take, that's a lot of money we don't have right now. But I guess once I walked away, they were like, we're gonna have an app. And so to this very day, or I mean, I haven't checked it in a little while, but to this day, as far as I know, at the end of the homepage, it says, download our app, coming soon in 2019. So I think we were supposed to open up shop summer of 2019, and they still haven't. So that's been going on for a year and a half. And as far as I know, no business. I think they're doing like wine tastings in grocery stores right now to try to get exposure. So I walked away from that. That freed up a lot of my time. I decided, hey, what's going to be my next creative project? And I've got things here and there. I always dip my toe into this and that, and creating a YouTube. I think it was after working with my boss about like, what am I going to do outside of work to foster kind of my creativity and my mental health. And it was, I'm going to do something creative. And that's around the time that I started my YouTube. So, once, of course I got on YouTube just to express some opinions, and then realized that people cared. People cared about what I had to think. And so, in talking to my friend, part of the founding team, I thought, if I really do want to make a business of giving people advice around dating and love and communication and relationships, I think I can build that and probably do it easier and more successfully in this avenue than I was trying to with this other person who was holding me back with some really just outdated business practices and not having no understanding of the digital space. That's essentially what it was. My partner had no understanding of the digital space, no social media. I'm not going to tell you guys the name of the business. So was in a relationship that was very abusive. So, I mean, I just don't know that it would have been successful in any capacity. So I thought, I can make my YouTube whatever I want it to be. So if I want to, make it a love and dating advice thing down the road, if that's what people want to talk about, then I will be here to do that, and that'll be fun. So essentially that's why when you see me talking about what my channel is about, you will hear me say here and there advice. I am an advice channel. I'm like the big sister of YouTube. Come to me with your questions. I'll give you my advice. And so that is a really big element to this creative project of mine. So, you want to talk about everything with me? No, I don't. You guys, if you guys send hate on my behalf, like, I'm sorry, but you guys are dead to me if you do that, because that is a huge, huge, huge policy here. Thank you, Caroline, for bringing that up. Is that nobody sends hate or acts bad, acts nasty or anything on my behalf, because you guys represent me when you go to other people. So let's not worry about them. It's just some janky little business that hasn't taken off. Who cares? I haven't seen my boyfriend in 5 weeks. I'm not going to see him this weekend. But I'll eventually see him. So where does that leave us? Yeah. So that brings us here. So if you guys don't know, if you kind of came on board in the past month or so, you may not know that part of my channel, part of what I wanted to build is occasionally doing what I call Ask Alicia, whether it be I take your questions and then put it into a video, or I occasionally do some public Q&As or on Patreon Q&As. But when I say Q&A, I'm saying like advice, asking advice. So, so yeah, that's what I thought we would do with the rest of this time. If anybody has questions about their dating life, or like, are you guys like, what's the deal with you guys? Are you PR pro bono? I'm not sure. We'll see. I wasn't super passionate about it, but this is about dating and love and relationships and communication. So, like, where do you guys stand? Are you like actively dating? Are you with somebody? What's the dating or the relationship situation look like for you guys? Or quarantined, obviously, but saying like outside of that. I know that what I found, thank you, Griff. What I found is that with my friend, she said that, you know, dating in quarantine on the apps is actually creating more space to have more conversation. So find that to be interesting. You've been with your husband for 9 years. I think you guys got it figured out. How do you feel about age gap partners? Oh, okay. I'll give you my opinion, and if you disagree with me, then hopefully we can let that be. But I don't know if I should tell you who actually kind of said this and I so agreed with, because we don't like her right now. But I myself would not feel comfortable in an age gap relationship. Because I tend to like to date people close to my age, because that means that we grew up with the same things. We tend to have the same taste in music and movies and references and style of humor and things like that. So I like to date somebody close to my age. But for other people, you know, like my friend Christina, she is very mature for her age, and she doesn't like guys who are in their 20s. So she is 28. And she would prefer to date a guy that's like 33. And that's too much of an age gap for me, but for her, I think that's totally fine. I think that when you're under a certain age, like your mid-20s, when you're still under that age, you really should be dating people close to your age. Because whether it is a 50-year-old man going after a 20-year-old woman, or a 50-year-old woman going after a 20-year-old man, I just think that to me feels a little bit predatory, because those people that are still under, say, the age of 25 still have a lot of development to go in terms of their brain, socially, developmentally, in terms of communication. So there's just still so much that people literally in their early 20s do not have the ability to do yet. Do you guys hear Atticus scratching in his litter box? He's like OCD about cleaning his paws. Yeah, so I'm okay with it as long as it's like in the 30s and up, I would say, or late 20s at the very earliest. Yeah, I'm not judging anybody who's doing it. I'm just saying, you guys asked my opinion. So, single for my entire life. I'm just gonna. Okay, so Jessica says, I've been single for my entire life, 22, just now in a position where I'm comfortable with dating. I've been on apps like Bumble and Hinge, and nothing has come of it. Help. Well, that's a little broad. I need more, how do you meet guys in a smaller city? I don't know what to tell you about a smaller city without thinking about it, because like I said, I am in DC. Libby, that's not to say you're not allowed to date. I just don't want you dating my dad type of deal. So in a smaller city, I will tell you this. My boyfriend lives in a small city, and he took an opportunity while he was working, because he travels for work in kind of like the Northern Virginia area. And so he utilized Bumble while he was at work, while we were within a certain range of each other, to match with me, and then convince me to date him by making the commitment to be the one to travel to me. So, do you think some bickering can be healthy in a relationship. I think that a little bit of bickering should be healthy in a relationship. You should feel comfortable with being able to express a little bit of annoyance here and there and then move on. If you like, if I can be like, babe, why don't you ever put your bowl in the sink? Like things like that. Like, you know, you need to make sure that you put the toilet seat down. Like things like that, you should be able to say and then just be like, oh yeah, sorry, move on. If you can't, if you bicker, if that becomes all of your conversation, that means there's something else going on. If that is just all, if that's the only tone you guys talk to each other in, there is a deeper problem, and that, I think that deeper problem has something to do with a lack of contentment in your relationship, and just kind of which generalizes to an annoyance with the other person. Do you have any advice for dealing with a toxic relationship in quarantine? That's really tough. The only thing that I've heard about was a really, actually an abusive relationship in quarantine. And that was a really difficult situation to advise, because this woman was being actively, like, I don't know that she was being physically abused, but definitely verbally. She had a couple of sons, and she was like, I don't know what to do, because, well, she started talking to me before quarantine, and then she was like, now we're in lockdown together. And that's when you kind of have to decide what's more important. You know, like making sure that I don't go near somebody else or like move locations, or do I keep myself in this situation? And I was like, babe, like you got to make that decision for yourself, because that's a priority issue. And you know, a lot of people are going to judge you if you get up and you go somewhere, but at the same time, if you're being actively abused, you've got to get out of that situation. So she up and left. And she messaged me. I did a whole video about it, but she left her abusive husband, and she has checked in with me since, and she's like, I'm living at my dad's house, I'm living in my old bedroom, and I brought my sons here, and everybody's healthy, we're good. And she's like, I'm just so much more content, and I feel like I have such a peaceful life. So if it's to that extent, you can find a way to get out. I don't think anybody should stay in a position where they are being hurt on a daily basis or on any basis for the sake of quarantine. You can always find a way to get out and to be as safe as possible. In terms of just like day-to-day stuff, a little patience is going to go a long way, and I think a lot of that's going to have to come from a place of empathy, because you know, this time is really, really hard on every relationship, really. And it's causing tensions to be high. Okay, you guys are talking to each other. Tensions are really high. It's important. I try to keep this in mind with people in general, is things are difficult for me, things are difficult for you. So, you know, let's just be mindful of that this isn't easy for either of us, and everybody's processing this differently. So if that means that we need to go into separate rooms or separate parts of the house or apartment for a little bit, that's fine. But can we have some sort of agreement that once we've cooled off, we just come back and give each other a hug and like move on? Because all that matters is getting through this quarantine sane. And hopefully getting through this quarantine still together, still in love, and still with a healthy relationship. So I hope that covered two different categories, whether you're talking about everyday, day-to-day, like bickering and fighting, versus like actually abusive relationships. Let's see. Okay, I'm seeing comments. I'm not exactly questions. That's cool that Rachel, that you've been with your boyfriend for a really long time. Being friend zoned. The girl I really like fully friend zoned me. LOL. My thoughts on being friend zoned. I don't believe in it. And I'm sure that in some situation I've been wrong. I'm positive of it. I'm sure that in the history of time, somebody has liked somebody and then has made the decision to say, I'm going to make sure that we continue to just be friends. However, I think that when a person is attracted to another person, that doesn't go away. So if they tell you, I don't want to ruin a friendship, or they say like, oh, she was just you're such a good friend, and it seems like you can never get out of that, I don't think there ever was a shot of being out of that. And that, I'm sorry, that's like a tough truth, and that's, again, just my opinion. But I think that friend zoning is a myth. I know, Ellie, that breaks my heart to tell you that, and I might not be right. But sometimes it's easier to hear these things and then process that. I've had to advise some of my followers on how to deal with situations like that, where it's like, I've liked somebody for so many years and it's not going anywhere. What do I do? And it's part of it is kind of that acceptance that if it hasn't happened by now, it probably is never going to happen. And I'll tell you what, Ellie, if I'm wrong, if this girl actually likes you and did actually just friend zone you, but there was like this actual romantic connection there, by you breaking those ties, then she may come back. But don't do it in hopes of that. I think it's just accepting that if somebody's friend zoned you, they were never going to give you their romantic life. And also, I'm going to say this. I think it is a bitch little move. and we've all done it, and we all can get it better at it. But it's a bitchy little move to tell somebody that like, oh, I just think we're better as friends, and like, you're great and you're so cute and I'm attracted to you, but I don't want to ruin this. It's be direct and be honest. Just be like, I think you're cool. I really get along with you. I just don't feel anything romantic. I've had that conversation with so many people. The last time I was on the dating apps, dated a guy for a couple of weeks, and then he was like, hey, like, I know we had a date scheduled, but I have to be honest with you. I don't see you as anything more than a friend. I just don't feel a romantic connection with you. And I was like, oh, hey, by the way, like, that's totally cool because I feel the same way, but can I still show you my Halloween costume I'm working on? And he was like, yeah, sure, cool. So, just be real with people too, as just kind of a practice. Everyone gets friend zoned, Sarah. So I don't have experience with being asexual or aromantic, but as far as I understand, being asexual doesn't necessarily mean that you're aromantic. So I don't know, maybe that's something to think about. My family invited him to stay with us, so that's you not being able to leave. I'm not sure what the beginning of that was. There you go, Annie. Like I said, it can't be true in every single case. And also to say that I think when I talk about friend zoning, I'm talking about something very specific. I think it is kind of this, like, you see it in teen movies type of deal. Like, oh, like the girl, they really have something, but the girl, or maybe there's the potential for something there. I think you just like, I think and I'm going to speak very kind of in a binary sense because of just history, but please understand that these things are a lot more fluid now, but just in terms of neurologically men and women's brains, and then historically, what men and women have been told. I think, as women, especially if you're my age or older, you have heard so many people tell you, oh, rom-coms have taught you some really like untrue things about dating. Rom-coms have taught you that guys are supposed to be like this and do this and that. Isn't as committed to sobriety as she is. Ooh, that's an important one. I'll get there. I also think that the same is true for other people too. I have noticed that I have found men in my life to be persistent with me when I have made it clear that I don't want to be with them. And I think that movies and stories and all of this have also fed other people untruths that have worked for some people. So I forget your name, but whoever said that, my parents did this and they've been together for over a decade, I would advise, this is a little bit cheesy, but I would advise anybody to watch the movie He's Just Not That Into You. Like A plus, like star-studded cast. I think that the movie itself, although it's cheesy at times, has a lot of really good lessons in it to learn. Things like little girls on the playground being pushed over by a boy and being told, "You smell like dog poop." And then she cries and she goes to her mom and she says, "He says I smell like dog poop." And she goes, "You know why that little boy said that to you? It's because he likes you." And so the movie starts off with that, with like these lies that people tell each other to kind of protect them through these situations that end up hurting us, because then the point she made, and I was like, holy shit, like mind blown, that so many of us have been told that when people mistreat us, it's because they like us. And how ass backwards is that? And it honestly was that movie that helped me to realize that if a guy truly likes me, he is going to treat me like he likes me, and there's nothing else to it. So if somebody is romantically interested in you, they are gonna, they're gonna show that as long as they're available. And then part of this movie, the reason I brought up this movie is because with every single one of these rules, there's an exception. And that's what they're saying, is that there's always the couple who dated for 15 years and then they ended up getting married. So if you've been with your boyfriend for 8 years and asking if you're going to get married, like it's happened before. It's kind of like these hopes that a lot of people hold on to. Or I've been friend zoned by this. That actually is a situation. I've been friend zoned by this girl for the past couple of years now, and we'll hang out and cuddle. And when is she ever going to let me be more than just her friend? And it's just, this person was fed this lie that someone somewhere, this was an exception to the rule, and it happened for them. So I really like that message of just, there are certain things that are going to be more true more often than not, and don't hang on to the exceptions as truth. In terms of, correct me if I didn't say this right, Caroline, but somebody said that they are in a relationship and her boyfriend is not as committed to sobriety as she is. Is that correct? Or anybody who caught that message? Talking about sobriety. Okay, cool. Talking about sobriety and relationships is a whole discussion in and of itself, and there are a lot of nuances to it. So like one of them is either of you in the first year of your sobriety? Because that is the time when you are the most vulnerable. That is the time when AA tells you you really should not be in a relationship. Now, I will be honest with you. I was in a relationship in the first year. I was in a relationship with somebody that I met at rehab. I didn't have a rehab romance. I didn't realize he liked me until after we left. But the only reason I felt comfortable in that relationship is because we had many conversations with each other where, first of all, we were long distance. So that gave us time in our everyday lives to make sure that we were focusing on our recovery and not each other. The other thing was that we had several discussions where we said, okay, Ashley, I'm trying to keep up with this. We use different substances for reference. Yeah, and that happened in my relationship. He was addicted to an opioid and I was addicted to alcohol. But we both knew, we made it very clear to each other that, and I think this is important in any sober, clean person's recovery, and it doesn't matter if you're new at this or not, to say, my recovery is my number one priority. It comes far before you. Because I'll tell that to my family, my immediate family. I'll say my sobriety is more important to me than my relationship with you. Because it is. Because if I let my sobriety go, then I don't have a relationship with you. So when you're talking about a romantic relationship, if somebody is not as committed to, is not fully committed to their sobriety, and you notice that, if that could put you at risk, honestly, I would not advise anything else but to get out of that. I'm sorry. There's just... keeping yourself alive and well is more important than literally anything else. So, and if this person loves you, they will respect that and do what they need to make sure that you're both keeping yourselves alive and well. And watch my video about RJ if you want help, because I had to do that. I was in sobriety, he was actively using, and I had to let him go. and it broke my heart, but we have to choose our health first. I hope that that helps. As an addict, would it be possible for you to be in a relationship with someone who isn't sober if you are studying your sobriety? So it depends on what you mean when you say who isn't sober. So as an example, my boyfriend isn't sober because he's not an addict. I will say he's never had a drink in front of me, and in fact, I think in the time that we've dated, he's had like a beer and a glass of moonshine or something like that, like away from me. Is it possible to keep your sobriety while you're, say, like nursing a partner who is in active addiction? Absolutely, it's possible. I did it. It is a very, very dangerous thing. And I think that instead of waiting it out, and it's different too, because it's like, are you in a marriage with this person? Do you have children? What kind of like commitments have you made to each other? What sorts of obligations do you have to each other? But at the end of the day, it always comes back to sobriety being number one, because that is keeping yourself alive. That is keeping everything in your life going. So I would say for both of you who have asked these questions, being with somebody who's not sober or somebody who's not taking it seriously, distance yourself from the relationship as much as that person is not taking sobriety seriously enough. I think that would be a fair thing to say. So say, boyfriend is addicted to a narcotic but can have drinks every now and then and doesn't believe that that's going to risk his sobriety, but it's putting your sobriety at risk. I would say back off. Be like, look, I can't be around you when you've had a drink. I can't be around you if you're hungover. I can't be around you if you're going to have a drink. Let's not see each other for a couple of weeks. That could be a first step. And for the boyfriend who is in active addiction and you're trying to keep yourself sober, I'll be like, dude, like, call me when you're sober. Because we know that distance is the only like man-made consequence that we can put on the people we love that actually is effective. And you'll see that in like shows like Intervention and stuff. But now we're getting into like sobriety talk. But I hope that kind of answered your questions about dating and sobriety. Yeah, I would love to have a conversation about dating and sobriety. That would be a really cool conversation to have. I think I probably have time for another question or two. Partner at 16 became lifelong chronic illness 2 months. Oh my goodness. Being mainly bedbound. And I was, still together. That's just a happy story. That's awesome. You somehow don't trust dating apps. You feel most people are there just for sex. How do you know who's serious about it? Well, you see who talks about sex right away. It's not going to be a foolproof method, but there are certain ways that I think you go about. What you put in your profile is going to put across whatever you're trying to get out of the conversation. So I'm sure that in this like very liberal, sex positive environment, people are going to be like, no, like put your tits on your profile or whatever. And this is one of those situations. I would tell you to do that on your Instagram all you want. But I would say in a dating profile, if you want to be a little bit more conservative when it comes to sex, I think that is what I'm saying, or at least hold off and get to know the person a little bit better. I would say how do I say this? You can be sexy without being sexual, for one. In your photos, show pictures of you being happy, show pictures of you doing things that you love, talk about your hobbies and your interests. And then when you have those conversations, first of all, if a guy opens up with any sort of sexual question, are you dom or sub? I've gotten that question before. I've had a guy start talking to me and then send me like some sort of like sexual gif. And I was like, bye, not talking to you anymore. And there was another guy who we started off with a game of 2 truths and a lie, and it was like so much fun. And then at the very end of that game, he turned it sexual. And it was like, see, could have had something good here, but bye. Because anybody needs to be able to respect. Like in real life, you wouldn't do that with somebody. In real life, you give it some time and you get to know somebody before, and then get that permission essentially to start letting that sexual tension build. But you need to at least have pleasantries and get to know somebody. At least a hi, how are you needs to be had. If you're just there for hookups and you put that on your profile and they're putting that on their profile, that's something different, you guys. But if you're looking to build something substantial, I do believe you can have sex on a first date and have a meaningful relationship. I do believe that. But as a practice, I think it is best to not talk about sex early on, to not have sex if you can avoid it in the first couple of dates. And that's not to be old-fashioned. That's not to be conservative. That is because psychologically it has been proven that that allows us to start to build a stronger bond with somebody and a level of trust with them before we take our clothes off. And to have that bond and that trust and that flow of oxytocin instead of just dopamine is going to be a much more rewarding experience. Not only that, but once you start having sex, the relationship becomes more about sex. So say on the first date you start humping like rabbits, like you're going to want to be doing that, and nothing else, at least for a while. So if you give it a few dates to really just kind of get to know each other and not even bring up anything sexual, I think it's really fucking rewarding. And I'll be very open with you guys. My boyfriend and I are very attracted to each other. Like, he is the hottest thing I've ever seen in my life. And you guys might disagree, and that's totally fine because he's mine. But he's just not the kind of guy. He never did that with me. And that's why he never, like, all the conversations we had were, okay, thank you, Griff. So I'm going to finish this up by talking about me and Jake. So, and how our relationship started on Bumble. He was the kind of guy who had nothing but pictures of himself in his profile, which I really liked. Very clear pictures where you could see what he looked like. The only other person in his pictures was a picture of him and his niece. So I really appreciate. They were like hobbies. One was him carving a pumpkin. One was him hanging with his niece. One was him cooking, like things like that. I'm gonna get all sappy thinking about meeting my boyfriend. And in my profile, I talked about the things that interest me, my religion and philosophy and science and design and all of these things. So I still have all of our first conversations. And going back, those conversations hold up with so much integrity because he started off by saying, hey, I'm curious. You're very liberal, but you're also religious. Tell me, like, where did that start for you? Where did that come from? Like, he dove right in, but the point is that he kept it very respectful and did not even bring up the topic of sex until we had sex. So, and I felt very respected, and in a sense I felt very safe around him because I didn't feel like I was going to be pressured into anything before I was ready to go there. And it also, here's another reason that it's important to wait, because especially for women, it is especially for women, this tends to happen, but it could happen for anyone. But we have a tendency to tie our self-esteem to sex. And so if you give yourself time to let a guy get to know you, or a girl, or anybody get to know you before getting naked, that can help strengthen that sense of self-worth, that you are worth more than just your body. And that's a really important thing to have in a relationship and just in your life in general. Stand-up guy, and that my boyfriend is really great. Like, he doesn't even talk about sex when we're apart, which is totally fine. He'll occasionally give me a little remark here and there to let me know that he's attracted to me. Hey, oh God, get out of here. I talked about our sex life only a little bit, but didn't. So there you go, you guys go. The last minute of my live stream, my boyfriend totally embarrassed me in front of 186 people. I hate you so much, Jake. Oh God, there you guys go. I have this vein in my forehead that pops out only when I'm super stressed. That was the best ending ever. All right, you guys, we're up on yeah, seriously, guys, give likes for Jake. Ugh. So pissed right now. Okay, well we're gonna end this here. I'm really actually kind of happy with how that flowed. That was really fun. And maybe we can do kind of a dating Q&A again another time because I really like this topic. Yep. Drink your water, guys. I love you so much. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Yeah, and check out helloleash.com. All right, guys. I love you. Talk to you soon.